clock 1:03. We do have a quorum, so Court and Vince, unless there's some objection, I'm going to go ahead and get started with the meeting. All right.
Very good, thank you.
Okay. All right. Welcome. This is the PEG Access Advisory Committee, and my name is Carlin Reed. It is March 3rd, 2022 at 1:04 p.m. I note that for the record that we are recording this program. We have a couple of things on our agenda today to cover, and I'll also note that we have a quorum present. So just to make sure we've got the quorum, I'm going to read off your name, and when I do read your name, please respond by saying hi, hello, I'm here, whatever you wish. Court Booth.
Hello.
Vince Carlson. Vince, you're on mute still.
Hello.
And Carlin Reed, I'm here as well. Hopefully we'll be joined by Corey Atkins and Scott Hopkinson later in the meeting. Okay. All right, in today's agenda, we're going to be covering a couple of things. We've had the roll call done. We're going to be looking at the February 10 minutes that Vince has circulated. Thank you very much, Vince. Appreciate that. We'll talk about our next couple of meetings and the general plan for the next couple of meetings. Hopefully we'll get an update from Kate Hodges, though she's not joined the call yet, as part of the budget process. If she's not able, what we'll do is we'll talk to, we'll get an update on MMN from our production manager, Mark Pauley from Minuteman Media Network. I've got a short update on the Comcast renewal process, and we'll get a broadband update from Scott or Vince, then liaison comments, and then public comments at the end. Then we'll adjourn by 2:30 at the latest. So that's the general plan. Okay, let's first turn to the minutes from February 10. Vince, I appreciate you sending out those minutes. Thank you very much. I have two short edits for you. The first one is on page 1, in paragraph 1 under the roll call. Matt's name is not Matt Breen, it's Beren, B-E-R-E-N. They're transposing the R and E. So if you could correct Matt's name.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, got it.
Mark Pauley, I do have that correct, right? I saw it on the back of it's B-E-R-E-N for Matt's last name.
B-E-R-E-N, yes.
I had to cheat. The video, in the video, it has his name and his title in the background, right by his head. So that's why I got this color.
Yeah.
Okay, the second edit that I have for you, Vince, is on page 2 under section 4, the Comcast renewal date. I'm going to ask that you have the acronym of TM there in the middle of the paragraph. It stands for town meeting. If you would spell out town meeting, because it could be interpreted as town manager or something else. So please put town meeting for the capital T, capital M. And those are the only edits that I had on this. I did have one question though. And when you're ready, Vince, on page 3, you've got a link. It's in section 5 under the broadband update. You've got a link to a YouTube channel. And on my printout, it says from https:// What's that link, video link to?
Oh, that is a link to this video on YouTube.
Okay, but you don't need it. You don't really need it because you have it linked up above on the very first page, right?
Yeah, I'll get rid of that. I didn't notice that was still in there.
Yeah, I think you can delete that. And those are all the edits that I have. Now, Court, what about you? Do you have any edits to the minutes of the February 10 meeting?
I do not, thank you.
Okay, Vince, did you have any other edits that you wanted to do?
No.
Okay, all right. I'll note for the record that Aaron Stevens from MMN has joined us as well. All right, could I get a motion, Court, from you to accept the minutes as amended?
Yes, please. I move to accept the minutes of February 10, 2022 as amended.
Thank you. Vince, can I get a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? No, let's do a roll call vote. Carlin Reed votes yes. Court Booth, how do you vote?
Yes.
Vince Carlson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, the minutes are approved as amended. Vince, would you please make those 3 edits and then resend it to me, and I'll forward it on to the clerk's office.
Yeah, I'll turn it around to you, today or tomorrow.
Great, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Approved as amended. All right. Okay, Next item, let's take a look at our meeting dates. I don't have Scott or Corey here, but the next meeting I have is for April 7. And Court, I kind of want to get your impression on this, if we should have this one in person or on Zoom. What's convenient for you?
On the 7th, that would be easy for me to do in person.
Okay, all right. Vince, what do you think? In person or Zoom?
In person would be nice.
I'd like that too. I'd like that too. And is 1 o'clock still good for both of you gentlemen? Court, is 1 o'clock still okay with you?
Yes, it is. Often I teach Thursday afternoons. And so as you'll recall, sometimes I have to hop on a phone for the last half hour of our meeting. I may well do that today as well.
Okay,
But April 7 looks clear.
okay. And 1 o'clock is okay with you, Vince? Is that right?
That'll be fine.
Good, all right. Then let's plan on doing it in person. Now, there are a couple options, and I'll try and find out a place where we can reserve a spot for an hour and a half. My inclination is to ask for Kai's Road. It may be in one of the other locations, but I'll have to talk to Aaron and to Robin LaFrance about a room reservation for April 7th, 1 o'clock in person.
Mark, I have a question for you on that. I know that a couple of the locations now have been wired for the hearing loss group. And it would be convenient if we could do it there, because there's some equipment that, I'd like to test. And Mark, you and I have had a little discussion about this. There's some stuff that needs to be available for people, that want to make use of it, at the meeting location. And so, I'll check with Bob on the hearing loss committee to, see if that's been distributed.
Yeah, the townhouse has it, and I believe the COA's building has it also. So if they put it other places, I'm not aware.
I believe those are the only two that are currently with the new systems as well.
Okay, well, with that in mind, where do you suggest, Vince, we have this meeting?
Either one, if there's a meeting space in COA, or the townhouse meeting room would be great. I know that that gets used more widely by people. So
For a party of 5, 6. Carol, you're our liaison with the Council on Aging. Harvey Wheeler, how does that sound for an in-person meeting? April
Fine,
7th.
if the room's available. They are pretty busy, but
Yeah.
give a call.
Do I call Ginger Quarles about that?
Just call the Council on Aging. Lauren will answer the phone and be able to tell you.
All right, I'll check that out. I think that would be fun, actually kind of fun. All right. Okay, so April 7, we'll do it at 1 o'clock in person. Aaron, this was a meeting where Kate was going to be talking to us about getting a consultant and the request for quote, the RFQ. I don't expect you to know what her schedule is, but do you foresee any problems with having her be in person on April 7th at 1 o'clock?
I don't know what her schedule is, but I can certainly check with her and see if she is available for that.
Okay, all right. I'm going to send that as a tentative. If we need to change it, we'll change that around. We can do something else if she's not available, but I really want to talk to her about the RFQ on that particular date. Okay, meeting after that, May 5. What I'm going to suggest at that meeting that we talk about creating a subcommittee for a needs assessment survey draft of committee members. Start talking about what we as a committee want to see out of the cable franchise agreement. So tentatively, that'll be May 5. And as a time, I'm going to suggest 1 o'clock unless you folks think we need to change a different time for that. Court, what do you think?
Oh, that's fine. Same caveat, I might hop on a phone at 2 o'clock.
That's fine. We'll make sure we get stuff done by then.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, tentatively May 5 at 1 o'clock. And I'm going to suggest that be in person as well. How does that sound to you, Vince?
Fine.
Okay, Court, how about you?
Yes.
Okay,
Fine.
good. Okay. And then the last one I've got set up is June 2nd. We're going to hopefully look at responses from the request for quote that Kate will have sent out and received and talk about the PAC awards. And I'm going to tentatively set that for June 2nd at 1 o'clock, also in person, unless you two gentlemen have an objection. Court? Court's
Sounds
okay with
fine.
it. Vince, what about you?
Fine.
Okay, Vince is okay with that. Now, I'm going to also, at this point, make sure that Aaron Stevens and Mark Polly from MMN are also okay with this concept of meeting in person at 1 o'clock on these dates. Mark Polly, do you have any concerns about the meeting?
No, no concerns at all. Yep, it'll be
Okay,
fine.
good. Good. I think I'm trying to make that transition. Aaron, are you okay with meeting in person?
Meeting in person is fine.
Good. And Carol, our liaison from the Council on Aging, are you okay?
No
with-
problem.
Good. Okay, sounds great. All right, folks, so we've got meeting dates set for the next couple of meetings all set. All right. Okay, the last piece I wanted to let you know is based on the draft schedule that I've forwarded as part of this package, we're going to be reporting to the select board April 25. I'm going to appear and say, okay, here's the draft schedule. I've talked to our deputy town manager about it. What we foresee happening for the next basically 2 years till we finish this process. And I think that we're going to be, there's going to be a part in there where I think the select board is going to want to do the actual selection of the consultant, but I'm not sure. Aaron, have you talked to Kate about how the consultant is going to be selected? Have you had any discussions with her?
Well, the consultants are usually chosen based off of the RFQ or RFP, depending on what we're looking for. And it's really based on what the committee thinks that is needed, as well as what the town feels is necessary in order to understand the process fully and feel like we're getting, sort of the best information that we need.
Okay, that sounds good. Are we going to be doing the selection process at a select board meeting? Or will it happen outside of a select board meeting?
I believe that it will be a separate meeting. I don't think it'll be at the select board. I believe that you all will probably provide your input, and then us on the town side will provide our input and then bring it to the select board for a final okay.
Okay, and that final okay, I'm guessing would be sometime in June is what I'm hoping. Does that make sense to you? Late June?
That makes sense to me.
Okay. All right. All right, folks. So that's what that June blank is on the agenda here. Okay. All right. Good. Well, now what we know what we're going to do for the next couple months. Let's shift gears now and go to the MMN update. And Aaron, I'm going to turn it over to you and to Mark and have you guide us where you will. So go ahead.
Hello, sorry, I'm have in and out with people behind me, so I keep turning off my video. So I guess that the biggest update that I have, and I'll let Mark jump in when he has something, is that we're working right now on making sure that the hearings are going well for the public hearings for the town meeting. They have been going very well so far. We have sort of a new setup that has been working very well from our perspective. We haven't heard any issues with what we're doing, so that's great. We have our new staff all trained and ready and working on that. And the other big thing is that I spoke with Tim Goddard last week or the week before, I can't remember which. And we talked a little bit about how Carlisle feels things are going, and he said that he's really positive about how the way the MMN has been handling things and really wants to make sure that this relationship continues as strongly as it has been. He's really excited to continue working with us. So we're working to try to put together another year extension of our intermunicipal agreements. in place before he leaves so that it's a clear transition to the next person when he retires in April, I think, so that everything is running smoothly for them. And then we will revisit it as we have been for, the next year after that.
His retirement date is April 1, so it's coming up pretty quickly.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't know if Mark has anything he wants to add.
No, well, yes. So we are, so I'm working as a consultant for the school board and the Ripley Building, conference room 4. So I've floated a possible scenario to make that room functional without MMN having to bring a truckload of equipment every Thursday, which this Thursday I'll be bringing a truckload of equipment because we don't have it changed yet. Anyway, so I've started the conversation. I've not had a clean time with our IT guy, Peter, yet, but he and I have been going back and forth with some emails, but I'm hoping to get that at least documented on what we want to do to make that room usable. In the last, or at least in the 3 years I've been here, it hasn't worked one day as far as I know.
Okay, hold on. Lois, would you please put yourself on mute? Thank you. Appreciate that.
Questions, if we might?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Court. Fire away.
Mark,
Thank
do
you so much.
you anticipate
Very
your
happy
work
with that.
will fit in within the current capital budget for this upgrade?
No, I do not.
Okay, so is it going to bridge fiscal years as a solution, or are we going to tap contingency monies elsewhere, school department or town?
Right. I'm going to let Erin and Kate kind of deal with that. We're going to first talk about what needs to make the room work. What do we need to make the room work?
So
And
my
then,
schedule's pretty open.
I don't know, sorry. Lois,
Hold on.
mute.
Lois, put yourself on mute, please.
No,
She's not hearing us.
The host can mute her.
Yeah.
Anything I have to.
Erin, if you have control of that, please do that, because I don't have control of
Fortunately, I
it here.
don't.
Okay.
I don't think I do either, so.
All right. Well,
All right. Well, anyways, so, Erin has talked to me about, let's make sure that we know and agree upon what equipment would make that room be standalone, and then say, all right, who's going to pay for it? What percentage can we get it at the cheapest possible value? But we know whatever all those things are. So, and then we can discuss, all right, who's paying for it.
And do you anticipate a hybrid of old gear and new gear, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to say that the mics on the tables, which is, I think, the main problem with using those wireless mics, to get them
Okay.
out of the picture,
Yeah,
and
at
then
4 o'clock
fix
I
one
do have
camera, and then utilize a audio system that
Oh,
is.
yeah, no, but I mean, just in case, since things get late.
Lois.
It's only a once a month meeting and I kind of need to pay attention.
Anyways, that answer your question, Court? I think, yeah.
And you used the word
350.
consultant. Does that mean you are literally a consultant with us, or are you
Secretary, thank you very
consulting
much.
with us?
Okay, bye.
I mean, do you have a contract as a consultant with the school department?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
So
I'm
this
just
is
putting my technical hat on from MMN and looking at what the school put in and say, okay, this is, I don't know who bought it originally. I have no idea.
Yeah, very much what we've been hoping. Thank you so much. I'm delighted this thing has got some traction.
Yeah.
Then a question for Erin, which I don't expect an answer on today necessarily, but I know for decades now, we've been talking about how when we better outfit a public facility, there accompanies that an expectation that we're going to use it for cost efficiency. School board's in that room every 2 weeks. And so I, for one, I can't speak for the school committee, but I, for one, would entertain Aaron's thinking about how there might be greater use of that public space if other spaces were occupied. Why? Because, it's a public investment that we want to recoup. And it's a nice room, as you know, Mark, for meetings.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Cord, just for my education, the conference room number 4, is that?
That's it. That's the one we're referring to, and that's the one where the school committee customarily meets.
Okay, for the full school committee. Okay,
Correct.
got it. That's conference room 4. Thank you. Appreciate that clarification. All right, now Cord,
And also, I'm working on kind of helping Carlisle look at what their next generation systems would be at their townhouse that would be a hybrid system that would be able to be moved so that Carlisle would be able to have equipment that would be called theirs, which they currently do now. However, it's housed only in that one room. They can't move it. So when we have something that is a bigger meeting in Carlisle and they want to move that equipment, we have to bring it from Concord. And there's been one time in the last 3 years that both towns wanted to have their town meeting on the same day, which again has only happened, once in 900 and something days. But we couldn't do it because we only have one set of movable equipment. But if I can make their town hall more of a in like 2 pieces, one piece sits in the room, cameras that are mounted and things like that, but the rest of it can be moved and has boxes and it's portable. I think that would help Carlisle. So this is a Minuteman meeting, not necessarily just a Concord meeting. So that's why I bring it up. So anyway, so I'm working on that also.
Great.
I don't know if Aaron, I think we're done on the Minuteman side. I don't know.
all right, Cord, I know that you had some questions that you wanted to ask. Have you asked the questions you wanted regarding Ripley and the budget and the school programs and capital expense coming up?
Yes. So one final question, and that is, you've got a raft of public hearings in front of you and town meetings, which you just mentioned. So I'm assuming you've got a war plan for that looks okay to you. Okay, good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's on the board and we're working on coverage for the long-term meetings there. But for the next, up until the 17th, we've got, 2 people for every single night that have been trained. So
And Aaron,
of the hearings. Yeah.
Aaron, has the town signed on with Capon, or who's your vendor this time? Do we know?
I don't know if a vendor has been chosen yet. That is a question for Chris Carmody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just because that's an interface that Mark has to be real nimble with. Yeah, good. Thank you.
Yeah, Court, just to let you know that the town has been working hand in hand with Minuteman when those RFQs are put out there. So they've been nice enough to give us input into the creation of the RFQ and also the feedback as to how technical each one of those quotes back have been. So I've been in the last 2 years very involved with the process. So it's been really good.
And from my seat, you are the town.
Yeah. 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 I appreciate that.
You're certainly the face of the town, that's for sure. Okay. All right. What I'd like to do, unless Aaron, you've got some more update from MN, is our committee has not taken a position yet on the proposed budget, which is Article 44. Now, we didn't do it at the last meeting because I was hoping to have Cord here at this particular meeting. We do have a quorum here. There was a short presentation in the last video that Kate had done. She's not sent out any updates to this. And we have the enterprise hearing coming up on March 17. Now, Court and Vince, are you prepared to talk about, ask any other questions, and are you prepared to take a a vote on whether to support the PEG budget in Article 44. Court, what do you think?
I hope so. I'm pulling up the warrant right now.
If you want me to do a screen share of something, I can probably pull it up here if that would be of convenience
Well,
for you.
the essence of it is it's a transfer of 494,000. It nicely explains how we generate this revenue. And I guess my question, which will be no surprise, Carlin, is have we the line item in front of us for that 494?
By the line item, you mean
How do
what?
we think at this point we might expend those monies?
Okay, now that was part of the budget presentation that was done in the last meeting.
Right.
And let me see if I can pull up some of that information from the last meeting for just a second here.
One more peek at that before we make any formal moves, I think would
yeah.
be useful.
Okay, give me a few moments here.
Yeah, thank you. We know that the bulk of it is operating and 58K is capital improvements.
Yeah, Court, on the, I'm just looking at my minutes from the, the last PEG meeting. And so she said that, the projections for on the operating revenue side were just slightly under $400,000. There were several variables, including the Comcast payments, which they've projected as declining slowly. And actually, they've almost turned flat at this point. So I think that's a reasonable projection. There was an item for the Comcast contract renewal consultant. So I guess we don't know how much that will be yet. And then she said that she didn't think it would happen, but possibly there could be an expanded service request from Carlisle, but I think maybe we've covered that, and it doesn't sound like there will be at that point. So her, her projections seem to be relatively straightforward, and there's not too many items where there was some uncertainty.
And to your point, that the revenues are somewhat plateaued. I think the only surprise about that is that it hasn't happened sooner.
Well, what Comcast is very clever in doing is, their rates go up every year like clockwork. So I don't know how much it was this year. I think it was 5 or 7%, wasn't it?
And the light plant has made cord cutting rather easy in this town.
Actually, they have. I just want to let you know, I've done a share screen. This is an earlier version from what was presented during the February meeting, but it's approximately right-ish, I think. I don't have the presentation that Kate's going to give to the enterprise hearing. And it shows the different operating expense plus the proposed capital together. I think that's the dollar amount that's actually in Article 44. Because on this operating expense, for example, here, 435,484. If you take that plus the 58,500 that's proposed for capital, that's kind of close-ish.
Yeah.
That's right about where we're looking at. So that's where the number comes from.
Very good. All right. Yeah, I'm very satisfied with this. I know that there's plenty of supporting detail. In terms of how this might represent personnel shifts or service delivery shifts, any perspective on that at a high level somebody could share with me?
The only change that I can say in the authorized positions is that we moved the professional project specialist. That's not supposed to be under the positions here, because that is not a that's not a position that we're adding. That is like another technical service. So that is one change. But for the most part, we've kept our staff pretty much the same as we did last year. We have our two lead producers, we have the production manager, and we have the space in there. We've budgeted for the education coordinator. If that becomes needed, we can definitely look at hiring for that. As of right now, we're not sure where the schools are going to be and if they're going to want us to be working in the schools more intensely. We don't know where COVID's going, so we don't want to prepare too much just in case. We don't want to hire somebody extra and have them not be able to do what's really exciting to them. So this is, what we're proposing, but like this year, we may not hire an education coordinator, and that money goes right back into our pockets, which is really nice. So if we don't fulfill it, then we do have that come right back to us.
Right, or that really would be a do not exceed number, not necessarily a fixed number.
Correct.
You don't have to take the whole bite at that apple.
Absolutely.
And if I understood you correctly about the project specialist, you're saying that would not be a personnel line item, but it would be a contracted service. It would show up elsewhere if you were to use it.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you. Okay.
That's at 12,500 on line 52 here.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron, I had a question. This is for the cable consultant or whatever needs to be done for the cable franchise renewal. Would that allow for a town-wide survey for the needs assessment? Because I know there's a cost to that. You and I have talked about how much doing a town-wide survey can be. Maybe it depends on how many questions are asked. I don't know. But does that number include enough for that?
I'm not 100% sure. That might be part of this. Kate came up with this number while I was away.
Mhm.
But I do know that we could probably find that funding within, even if it's not specifically budgeted for, we would be able to, I'm sure, find that in perhaps in our technical services budget, if need be. Especially if we do have a smaller survey, it is going to cost less money. Depending on if we can just send around a postcard and have people log into a website to complete the survey and just have some paper copies available for those who need it, as opposed to sending around a paper survey, which then has to be entered in, because that's a lot more labor intensive and that costs a lot more money.
Yeah, I can see that. That was the one question I had about the budget. Vince, do you have any questions about the budget before I call for a vote?
A couple of things. One on that specialist or the survey. The consultant may have some funding built into their proposal about doing a survey. I think that happened in Carlisle, and they did quite an extensive town survey on, general services. I mean, this wasn't the fee for the consultant, but, for the whole town, but it's possible that something could be buried in there in her proposal.
That's true. This is just a placeholder, nothing else at this point.
Now, a question on the reserve, which the number on that now, I believe, is 1.5 something million. Is that sequestered in some way from, just the open cash? That's for Aaron, maybe?
Yeah, it's for Aaron. Just a point of clarification, the 1.5 you're talking about is what's listed in Article 44 as of the PEG balance as of July 1, 2021. What we're seeing on the screen right now is a balance as of July 1st of 2021, and then project at June 30th, 2022. So it looks like the balance will be lower than 1.5 eventually, as far as this program is concerned. Go ahead, Aaron.
So Vince, I just want to clarify, are you asking, is this separate from the town's general fund? I'm not quite clear.
Yeah,
on your question.
Remind us, do we have an enterprise fund on this?
This is a special revenue is what
Special
our-
revenue. It's classified as part of the enterprise funds as far as the hearings, but it's a special revenue fund, so it's just different.
Yeah,
Right.
it operates differently, but we fall under the enterprise.
So that would mean to some degree, it's more segregated than other monies, Vince.
Yeah, well, the reason I'm asking, and let me ask it in a different way. There hasn't been much interest, on any cash that the town retains for any length of time. You put it in a bank and, the interest effectively for the past few years has been zero, if not negative. However, the Fed is talking now about gradually raising interest rates, and the number I hear, maybe is something like 1.5%. So if you apply that, can that apply to the reserve fund there? And in that case, that would represent, $20,000 or $30,000.
Yeah. Vince, I understand the point you're making. Aaron, I'm gonna let you respond, but I had a conversation about this very topic, whether interest should be reflected on the balance of the PEG Reserve Fund with Carrie LaFleur when she was the finance director a couple of years ago. I've not talked to her since then, but maybe Aaron, you've got a more up-to-date perspective on it. If not, I'll give you what she told me a couple of years ago, basically.
I don't have a different perspective on it. That's something that I would want to talk to Kate and Carrie about before answering myself.
Yeah, here's what I had heard from Carrie LaFleur a couple of years ago. There's a balancing, Vince. If this were a true enterprise, pure enterprise fund, yes, interest would be accruing on that fund balance. But the transfer, which I'm showing here under finance administrative, right now is only about $1,400 to $2,000 for services, for town services. And in this case, it's human resources. If this were a pure enterprise fund, this dollar amount would be much more because you're allocating part of a number of other services. Since it's a special revenue account, the only thing that's transferred over from the PEG is $1,400. So there may be a wash in that. I don't know. I don't know what the total amount is, but that was the justification I heard a couple of years ago from Carrie LaFleur about why this does not show interest accruing on the fund balance. Does that make sense, Vince?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
In
That
other words,
special fund, by the way, versus being a separate enterprise fund is been an ongoing issue, because to some extent it also blurs the lines of management.
Yeah.
So
It is interesting. Tell you what, I'll sometime the next week or so, I'll talk to Carrie LaFleur about this to see if my understanding is still correct as far as the justification for not doing it. Not holding this as a pure enterprise fund, but having a special revenue fund.
yeah.
I'll report back at the next meeting. How's that? Okay. Okay, can we call for a vote now, please?
One more really quick one.
Go ahead.
Up top, are there any, let me just peek at this. Thank you.
Up top, how far up top?
Do we generate any revenues by way of donations or rentals or service agreements?
We generate funds from Carlisle because we are technically a contractor working for them at this point.
Right.
As well as we work somewhat with, and it's been picking up some with various, organizations around town if they are hosting an event that we can't show on cable because, for instance, they are charging tickets. And so they will have contract for us to come in and to record that for them. And so there is a fee. It's fairly small. There's not a lot of funding coming in from it, but there's a little.
So that would be the third item program revenues.
That's where it would normally go, I would think,
Okay.
but there's nothing here.
Yeah, well, okay, that's fine. Just was curious, that's all. And then the payment in lieu.
The payment in lieu of franchise. We had a discussion at the last meeting.
I
Extensively.
apologize, sorry.
So that that's set at 1.5% of the expected broadband gross revenues. And there's a note about it at the bottom of the spreadsheet.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, now can I call for a vote?
Yeah,
Yay! Could I have a motion, please, to, I'm not going to say approve the budget because we don't really have approval authority, but to support the fiscal year 23 PEG budget and Article 44.
would it be an affirmative action language?
Yes, yes. So what's a better way of phrasing it?
That the Public Access Advisory Committee move affirmative action on on Article 44.
Yeah, that's what's necessary. Okay, so that's the motion. Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay, do I have any additional discussion? All right, roll call vote. Carlin Reed votes yes. Court Booth,
Yes,
Vince Carlson.
yes.
Okay, we have a vote. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate that. All right, are there any other questions? I'm going to take questions from the audience now. For MMN, I'm going to stop share of the budget here. Carol, do you have anything for MMN?
Nope.
Okay, all right. All right, all right, sounds good. And see, that's all that we have. Yes, go ahead, Mark. Mark Polly, you're on mute still. Thank you.
Carol? I just wanted you to know that I've been working on the Minuteman YouTube page that has the Carlisle and Concord's Council on Aging that used to be all grouped together. I've now broken them out and continue to work on renaming them so that it says Concord or it says Carlisle, and it says the date, it says who the meeting speaker is and what the content was. And I've attempted to work on that, and then so I think I'm 1% of the way done, maybe 50, maybe 60, maybe even more. So if you want to mention that and have someone within Concord's COA kind of look at the new group playlist and see if I'm going in the right direction, I guess.
Okay, I will try and find it myself.
Okay, good luck.
And if I find it, good. If I don't, I will call you.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Good. All right. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
All right, that sounds great. Okay, next thing on our agenda is going to be looking very briefly at the timeline for the Comcast renewal franchise timeline. And if you want me to do a screen share, give a shout and I will. You all have the documents for it.
we do. Yeah.
I'm looking at it very briefly and coming up, it just looking at March, April, and up in May. The piece that I have revised, and this is, I've got it as the, I think it's 224 revised version of it that was sent out. There are some, it's towards the end. I'm gearing this up so that we can plan to have this negotiated and done either right before town meeting or shortly after town meeting, so that town meeting in May of 2024 can approve their respective Article 44 for the PEG operating budget, but also approve the town entering into a franchise agreement with Comcast. That's kind of how I'm envisioning it. I don't know if it'll be one article or two, but there's a process involved getting two town meetings. You all well know about having it ready for published and what the text will be and that sort of stuff. But the end piece of this game is going to be important when we set out the request for quote, because Aaron and Kate are going to want to know, okay, so what does the consultant have to be able to do? So that's part of the reason for me sending out this extended timeline, probably in more detail than we need. And it's probably going to be adjusted once we do get a consultant on board, but at least we can kind of see where the pieces could fit and how much time is needed roughly to do stuff. Okay. So is there I'm not going to go through each one of these particular pieces, but if there's a particular piece that you have a question about, Cord or Vince, we'll be looking at this every month. The next month, of course, the meeting at April 7th is when we're going to be start talking about the request for quotes. So that's the next benchmark for us. Or do you have any questions?
No, I'm studying it again now. Actually, I do have one question. Do we have a select board liaison?
Well, yes, we do. It's Henry Dane. He's
Henry,
been our
okay.
select board liaison since he came on board. I've sent him the information every time it's meeting, and I called him 2 days ago to give him a kind of a rundown of where we are.
Okay,
Next time I see him, I'll track him. And if you happen to see him, by all means, either of you,
got
feel
it.
free to chat with him about it.
Okay.
yeah.
No, this looks very carefully done. Thank you, Carlin.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Vince, did you have any questions about the timeline as it stands right now? Again, not set in stone. It just gives you some signposts of where we have to go and what's coming up next.
The only thing is perhaps for court's benefit on this town meeting approval of a 10-year contract. And, Carlin had apparently gone through this and checked with town council. And even though they said it may not be required, they recommended that indeed that it be submitted to town meeting for approval.
Okay, thank you.
That was
Yeah,
the status of last week's discussion. Yeah.
Thank you.
Apparently in 2015, there was a warrant article passed that delegates the ability to approve the actual contract to the town manager. So I think it was article number 34 of the 2015 town meeting. We discussed it last meeting, but I think the town council and Kate Hodges had suggested, better practice to approve it. And that goes along with your good guidance, Court, that you had suggested at the very beginning that we take this to town meeting and make sure that everybody's comfortable. Hey, this is a 10-year contract worth about $3 million to us and about $70 million to Comcast. So let's get it right. Okay.
No.
Okay. All right. So that's where we are with the timeline itself. Okay. Next on the agenda, let's do a quick update on the broadband. Now, as part of the packet, Vince, I'm going to turn to you in just a moment here, but as part of the packet, I had sent out a copy of an FCC order. I promise I'm not going to do this on a regular basis because these are kind of complicated. But this was a pretty cool one because it was actually, it's an FCC order. It's called FCC 22-12, Report and Order and Declaratory Ruling, Improving Competitive Broadband Access to Multiple Tenant Environments, released February 15th, 2022. Okay, that means we have a notation of what it is. And what this does, it addressed getting broadband to multiple dwelling units, to apartments, to complexes, rental units. And some prohibitions, the FCC said, no, this is not a good thing to do. Now, Vince, if you want to cover this briefly, go ahead. If you want me to give my quick synopsis, I'll do it. How do you want to do this, Vince?
Why don't you cover this one, and I'll provide some updates on some things that came up at the fiber broadband task force meeting yesterday.
Okay, good. In the FCC order, the FCC was looking at some revenue sharing agreements that are restricting consumers' access to broadband, competitive broadband providers. And the three general areas that the FCC is tackling at this point: first, exclusive revenue sharing agreements; second, graduated revenue sharing agreements; and third is a prohibition of enforcing existing graduated or exclusive revenue sharing agreements. And what they basically are, let's see. Okay, I'm going to read the paragraph that kind of summarizes this whole thing. To ensure competitive choice, and this is on, paragraph 2 of the order itself, to ensure competitive choice of communication services for those living and working in multi-tenant environments, or MTEs, and to address practices that undermine long-standing rules promoting competition in MTEs, multiple tenant environments. We take 3 specific actions. First, we adopt new rules prohibiting providers from entering into certain types of revenue sharing agreements with landlords, for example, that are used to evade our existing rules that require access to competition for broadband. Second, we adopt new rules requiring providers, those are the internet service providers like Comcast and other folks. Rules requiring those providers to disclose the existence of exclusive marketing arrangements in simple, easy to understand language. And that actually applies to Concord Green. Concord Green has an exclusive marketing agreement with Comcast, where Comcast has agreed to be the only entity that advertises on at the Concord Green store location the availability of their broadband services. So that touches the Concord Green situation. Third thing is we clarify that existing FCC commission rules regarding cable insider wiring prohibit so-called sale and leaseback arrangements, which effectively deny access to alternative providers. And in taking these actions today, we promote tenant choice and competition in the provision of communication services to the benefit of those who live and work in multiple tenant environments. Apparently, a third of Americans reside in apartments, condominiums, or other multi-unit buildings, and that's what this order is intended to cover. So if from the broadband perspective, those three types of practices are now prohibited. Okay.
And I assume that compliance doesn't happen on the Concord Green end, it happens on the Comcast end.
Well, on that one, that's an interesting, I haven't spoken with anyone from Concord Green about this yet, but what would happen is the provider has to disclose the existence of the agreement. So it'd be Comcast's responsibility
Right. Yeah.
to disclose their exclusive marketing agreement. Now, we have several multiple tenant environments in town, and this would apply to all of them. I don't know if any are in violation or if any even know about it yet, but I thought this is a good place to start because that's what we do.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the summary of the FCC order. If you folks think of something else that comes up, some other type of FCC order or state order, let me know. We'll talk about it there. Okay, Vince, I'm going to turn it over to you. As a time check, it's 1:55, so we've got plenty of time. Go ahead, Vince.
Okay, it's something that Scott Hopkinson was aware of and that they have discussed briefly before, and it probably is because of Concord Green, because it's David Hessel, I think, who is a representative of that, and he is a resident of Concord Green, and I believe he's the head of their, I think they don't call it a condo association, but it's condo board, I think they call it.
Yeah.
In any case, they did a survey of their members relative to how interested they were in getting service from CMLP, from the light plant. And they actually got a negative response based on the estimate of how much each owner would have to pay in order to finance the cost of putting in the fiber. And originally, the number they used was a very low one. I think it was $100,000. It turned out that the number was actually closer to $400,000, which made it even worse. But basically, they said that they weren't prepared to pay $1,000 to get in the light plant. So they are in the process of repaving the streets at Concord Green. And that is supposed to start very soon. So there's not much they can do at this point about doing anything other than putting in conduit there, which is for electricity at this point. So they've had problems with the electrical service. So they're putting in new conduit completely to service the units. So there was a fairly extensive discussion last night about, well, could this be added even if it's not conduit for the fiber? Can you just have fiber itself buried in the ground, which apparently is now feasible or more feasible than it was a few years ago. But apparently the contractor is supposed to start working in 45 days. So it's locked in as is. It means that the street is going to be paved and nobody's going to want to chop up the street again. 6 months from now, or maybe even, 5 years from now. So effectively, things are at kind of a standoff at this point in terms of getting the light plant into Concord Green, which is kind of interesting because I think there is now 3 past or present members of the select board that live in Concord Green. I think Mary Hartman lives in Concord Green, doesn't she, Carlin? Do you know where she lives?
Yes. Yeah, she does. There's something else that may have an impact, and I don't know exactly if you folks have looked at the select board agenda that's coming up for March 7. On that agenda, I'm looking at it right now. Jason Bolger, our Chief Information Officer for the town, is going to talk about, the title says Broadband Reorganization 5G. I have no idea what it's going to be. Aaron, if you're available, do you have any idea of what's going to be discussed? Because the materials have not yet been posted for the select board meeting. But maybe he'll be talking about 5G in Concord. I don't know. Anyway, that's for the March 7th select board meeting, starts at 6:30.
Okay, excuse me. Go ahead, Carla.
The last thing on this, that's same on that same agenda, there'll be an update on the Caius Road cell tower concept. So from a broadband perspective, I think those are 2 interesting developments. Go ahead, Vince.
So a couple of other points on that document there for restricting marketing agreements. When Brookside Square first opened, and Brookside Square is the one that's directly behind the post office in West Concord. At that time, Mark Howell was doing the job that Jason Bolger has just assumed. So he was the acting manager of Concord Light Broadband. Out of the 74 units in that building, only 2 signed up for Concord Light Broadband, even though it was available in that building because it was a new building and it had been wired, to do so. The explanation that he got at the time was that most of the people that moved in, and this was relatively unexpected, they had expected that to attract a lot of people from Boston, particularly people that were moving into Cambridge and particularly into some of the high-tech industries who were, hiring even at that point. And now that hiring is escalated even more. But it turned out that a substantial number, if not most of them, were actually people that were downsizing from houses in Concord, just because they had been planning to downsize. And that's a very attractive location to do it. It's centrally located. You can walk to things. They stay in contact with all of their family and neighbors. And there really wasn't much available in terms of rentals. So it looks, however, as if Brookside Square may have had a marketing arrangement with Comcast at that point. This order will prohibit that, under the terms that, Carlin just described. However, the point is moot if there is no availability of fiber in the building. Really, for instance, there's the 28 unit condo complex that's going up on Main Street. They're also in West Concord. And at this point, I don't know, it was a question that certainly should be checked with, as far as light plant is concerned. They would ideally proactively go in and put fiber into all of those units. And if they did, assuming that the Concord Light Broadband sales and marketing was not incredibly worse than that of Comcast, and Comcast is very good, by the way, they should at least get, some substantial portion of the people that move into that. What that says is there is an issue about how do you do it? You have to proactively, in many cases, go in and have the facility available.
Yeah, that does make it interesting. Okay, I think we're about done with the broadband update, unless there's something that Court, you or Vince particularly want to ask about. In which case, this is gonna be a short meeting, because what we'll do is we'll go next to liaison comments. Carol, do you have anything from Council on Aging for us?
No, nothing, nothing new. Things are going well there. A lot of activities are back in place and in person, and some maskless. So, and good.
That's good to hear. Feels weird though, but I'm glad to hear that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, going maskless at the public library was a strange experience for me the other day. It felt nice. Okay. Anything else before we wind up today's session? Vince, do you have anything else?
Oh, yeah, Carol, I had a comment for you. A question that you had at the last meeting was, how do you get to watch Lincoln
Like
Sudbury soccer? Did you make any progress along those lines?
No, what I said was it was very easy to watch a basketball game. You say Sudbury TV, period. And then you get a webpage where you can find the game you want to look at, what's being produced live. And it was very easy. So then I found out that there's Minuteman.media that I could have used to get to the website in Concord too, but I didn't know about that short.
Yeah, so out of curiosity, I started with Minuteman Media too, and by the way, it looks very nice. You know, Mark, you and Aaron, you know, congratulations, because that schedule works very well, and you can easily get to the TV schedule for government, public, and education.
Yeah.
I had a question on that though. How is that updated? Do you folks have to manually update it, or I know it's Civics Plus that's involved with the website there?
The
Yeah,
website.
no. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Erin.
The website itself is updated by staff, mainly by me. But the schedule itself automatically updates. So when we put things into sort of our backend system, it updates on the website for us that TV schedule.
I have one suggestion on the TV guide. You have public, education, and government, but you don't put the channel numbers. A lot of people don't remember which is which. So just on the top,
Suggestion.
the
We'll see if we
heading.
can change that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good input, Carol. Appreciate that. Okay, is there anything else before we adjourn this meeting? Vince, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, and I'll provide the second. Let's do a roll call.
I'm still among us.
Good, Court. I wasn't sure if you'd be able to get to the phone fast enough. Is there anything else that you want to add for the school committee before we?
No, thank you. Very productive meeting. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. All right, let's do a roll call vote. Carlin Reed votes yes to adjourn. Vince Carlson,
Yes.
Court Booth,
Yes.
and I think we're done. That passes. Thank you all very much. Have a very pleasant afternoon, and see you next month. It'll be in person. I'll let you know where. It'll be April 7th, 1 o'clock. Thanks.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.